So, you've either been looking for something new to play and wanting to learn more about Gears of War, or haven't played for a while / recently started playing, and may have been finding it a bit difficult. That's the nice way of saying getting your ass handed to you. Either way, you're not alone. Gears of War has a lot of unique mechanics, whilst also having a player base that's played for nearly 20 years. This means for new and returning players, the learning curve is quite steep due to the unique mechanics, and it's made even more difficult by people extremely familiar with the game dominating everyone, at least until now and this video series. The goal of this series of videos is to teach you everything you need to know about Gears 5 / Gears of War in general, and massively lower that learning curve. I know a lot of people only play the game once or twice and then leave and never come back because they find the mechanics difficult, or they get crapped on online and it's just not fun. And I get it, I've had that experience with other games. The thing is, I love this community and I love this game, and I think it's our job to make Gears as easy as possible for new and returning players to the franchise, and that's what this series of videos is about. So you may be thinking, why should I even listen to this guy anyway? So a little bit about me. I used to be a professional gamer on Gears of War. In all honesty, I've probably put more hours just on Gears of War 1 than most people have put into the whole franchise. I literally lived and breathed Gears of War for years, played at a very high level, and I wanted to bring as much of that pro knowledge as possible to beginner players and players returning to the franchise, and do so in a broad and complete way, but also in an easily digestible way. The way I've gone about this series of videos is everything within them can be implemented in your very next game. Initially this was supposed to be one big video, but it would have been over an hour long, so I cut it into 3 separate sections, which are all added in the description below and linked in the cards at the end of this video. I have put quite a lot of work into these series of videos, so if you think it helps you, please drop a comment and like, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if possible, and click the notifications bar to get notified when more videos go live. Now, the first video in this video series, as the title suggests, is about movement. It can be one of the more difficult concepts to grasp, but at the same time one of the most important. So without any more messing about, let's jump into the video. If I could go back in time, this is the first thing I would do on this game, is use the alternate controller scheme. This one is somewhat down to personal preference, whereas the rest of the points in this beginner's guide aren't. It is what it is. And the reason for this is it could make the game a couple of % more difficult to get the controls down initially, but in the long run it will save you thousands of deaths. So what is the alternate controller scheme? So Gears of War is famous for its cover, diving and running system. All of these are controlled by the same button, which is A. The issue is sometimes when you want to stick to cover, if you're too far away from cover, it will make you dive and you'll easily be killed. Just like this video which happened a couple of days ago to me. What the alternate controller scheme does is it makes the button for stick to the wall and run and dive different. This completely eliminates and stops you from accidentally diving out of cover when you want to stick to something. Now, I wish I did this when I first started learning the game, because I have 20 years of muscle memory, well, nearly 20 years of muscle memory built into me for pressing A for everything. I did try and switch to alternate recently and I just couldn't do it because I was too far gone with the muscle memory. So my first tip is to use the alternate controller scheme if you've not spent a lot of time playing this game. So in order to change your controller scheme to classic alt, all you have to do is press start, go over to options, and then you see controller scheme. Then you have to do is go right to classic alt. Now what this does is normally in a default, as you can see, A and X. A is take cover, evade and mantle, and X is revive, meat shield, grab. When you change it to classic alt, A is take cover and mantle, and X is evade and roadie run. So this means that to dive and roadie run you hold X, and to take cover / jump over a cover, or what is called mantle in Gears of War, you press A. So this is splitting the buttons so you don't accidentally dive when you want to take cover or wall bounce, etc. However, if you have played the game for any length of time and you have developed a bit of muscle memory for pressing A for everything, there is something that I have which can help you, which I recently implemented and it helped me. Now, one of the things with alternate controller scheme is because sticking to the wall has a dedicated button to X, the range you can stick to the wall from is actually increased in comparison to the default controller scheme. So even if you've developed that muscle memory for pressing A to do everything, there is a controller scheme that, a custom controller scheme that you can set up, which actually merges your default controller scheme with the alternate controller scheme. What this does is internally makes the game think it's on the alternate controller scheme, which means you can stick to the walls from further away, but you'll use A for everything. This eliminates a lot of the accidental rolling instead of sticking to cover, because you will be able to stick to cover from further away. It has absolutely helped my game recently, and I would highly recommend it. And it makes wall bouncing slash slide cancelling quicker, which we'll get into in a sec, and it makes the overall game feel a lot smoother. So this is how you can change it to the default controller scheme. So we're going to stick with the classic alt controller scheme, but instead what we're going to do is go down to controller remapping. And what we're going to do is swap the X button to A. So all you need to do is press A to change it, then press A again. And then the Y button, you're going to swap to X. Again, press A to change it, then press X to swap it to the button that you want. Now, changing this is going to help you a lot, because what it does, it allows you to keep using A for everything, for mantling, for running, for diving, and for wall bouncing. I've been playing with this for a little bit, and I've noticed the difference drastically. What you need to remember is on screen, some of the button presses will be incorrect. So you'll still press X to pick up a weapon, but for example, if someone wants to change weapons with you, it will tell you to press X when in reality you have to press A. This will massively help your game, make it feel smoother, and make you glide around the map a lot easier. The second movement tip is utilize the movement mechanics. Recently, I've seen a lot of people walking around the map slowly, not using the walls as cover, walking towards fights and power weapons without really any sense of urgency and things like that. The problem is, walking around makes you vulnerable, it makes you an easy target, and it basically can take longer to get back involved with fights and help your teammates out. So I'm going to give you an example of how I've seen a lot of players play, and then I'm going to give you an example of what you should do. So here's an example of what I've seen a lot of players play like. As you can see, they're just walking in the middle of the map. They're not utilizing the cover system, and they're just making themselves a big open target, versus utilizing the movement system. When you press A to stick to targets, you're running. This will help you get into your fights quicker, and you're a moving target, so you're more difficult to hit. Now, comparing these two videos, which person is easier to hit? What you want to do is run around the map pressing A to stick to cover as you run forwards and stuff like that. This makes you a much more difficult target to hit, protects you, and makes you get to where you want to go quicker. So make sure you're using the cover mechanics to propel you forward and get you into the map, get you into fights, and make you more difficult to hit. So I realised that that bit of movement may look quite advanced for a beginner player, but it honestly really isn't. So what I wanted to do was do a voiceover while I watched the clip back to explain to you exactly what I'm doing and what I'm pressing. Now, ideally, I would be able to have my buttons on screen of what I'm pressing, but I don't have a PC that's capable of running Gears of War, so I'm unable to track my Xbox controller inputs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a voiceover of the clip, and I'm going to reduce the speed and explain to you exactly what I'm pressing and exactly what I'm doing, and annotate it when I can. I'm going to be pausing it as we go forward, so I hope it's not too annoying. But hopefully by the end of this, you'll see how what I'm doing isn't difficult. I'm literally just pressing A, and that is it. The buttons I'm going to say are based on the default controller scheme, so just be aware of that. So whatever controller scheme you use, it may be a different button than A. Keep that in mind. So literally all I'm doing is running. As I've run, I've literally held left on the analog stick and tapped A, which has made me tag to the wall. I've then pushed off around the corner and literally tapped A again towards the direction to the wall. And before I hit the wall, I pressed forward and A to dive forward. So before I finished this forward roll, about here, I started holding A and then aiming my left analog stick in the direction I wanted my character to run to. So it's literally as simple as that. In this case, I wanted her to run to the right. And then I've pressed A to stick to the wall again. And then held A and forward on the left analog stick as you normally would to go forward around the wall. I've literally pressed A and towards the cover that I wanted to stick to. Simple as that. And before I hit the cover, I press left, so to wall bounce. Now, I'm not too sure what order this will be in the video, but if I haven't mentioned wall bouncing yet, I will do. So yeah, I've pressed A to stick to the wall, and before I'm going to hit this wall, I'm going to press left on the analog stick or in the opposite direction that the wall is. This is going to cancel the slide and going to stop me from hitting the wall, so I can then do something else. In this instance, I think I press A again to stick to the other wall, which I do. And this time, before I hit the wall, instead of doing a slide cancel, by that I mean press the analog stick in the opposite direction to where you're sticking to the wall, I've pressed A, so it rolls me into the opposite direction. All I've done here is press forward and A to stick to the wall. And then I'm going to do the same again in a second. And forward and A again to go around the corner. And then forward and A again to stick to the wall, and then blind fire and shoot G in his face. So that is how I did that. So jumping over cover, this is an interesting one. I've noticed even seasoned pros at the game aren't aware of this mechanic. A lot of people think in order to jump over cover, most people stick to the cover, then hold forward and press A to jump over. You can actually skip this extra step, and as you're running towards cover, tap B and you'll jump straight over it like this. This works for all covers that you can vault over. Although it's quicker, still be careful, and this is another tip by itself to be fair, but a lot of the time, when you do certain things, you're locked into an animation, and once you're in an animation, you're an open target. So if enemies are around, be careful vaulting over the cover in this way, because whilst you're vaulting over and you're in the animation, you'll make yourself a super easy target to hit, and you'll die pretty much instantly with a shotgun to the face. You can actually press B from further away than you think to vault over cover, and you can actually tap A to stick to the back of the cover, and whilst your character's going towards the cover, tap B and you actually jump over it. In fact, if you don't know, you can actually use vaulting as a weapon in itself, which brings us to our next point. If someone's behind cover, you can actually do a couple of things to make them an easy kill. So the first thing, if someone is directly opposite you behind cover, you can press forward and A to vault over. As you vault over the cover, you'll kick your enemy like this. This then enter kicking video here. This then puts them into an animation that's just long enough for you to get a shotgun shot off and kill them. If you miss your shotgun shot, they will be able to shoot you before you get your next shot off, so make sure you hit it. If you're wondering, you can just use the tip from the previous point and run towards cover and press B to vault over quickly, and it also looks cool as fuck. The second way to use vaulting as a weapon is to get behind cover in a spot opposite your enemy again, and instead of vaulting over the cover and kicking your enemy, you can actually pull them back over to your side of the cover and then get the shot off. So how you do this is push forward again, but instead of pressing A, you actually press X. This will grab your enemy over the cover, pull them back to your side, and then you can get a shot off to kill them. Or you can press B and it will shove a knife into their face, basically. Again, with both of these, if you do miss the kick or you do miss the pullover, you will be easy pickings for your enemy and they will just kill you. One thing to note, there is a counter to both of these moves. If you kick an enemy over cover or pull him towards you, or vice versa, you or your enemy can press B to counter this. So it will break the animation and they'll end up hitting you, and then they'll be able to kill you very easily. So just bear that in mind, is that when you do use this, it can be countered. Wall bouncing. So wall bouncing is one of the most important game mechanics to understand. You may have heard it being called slide cancelling, but for the purposes of this beginner tutorial, I'm going to split them into different categories because it will make it easier to understand. Now, I'm not the fastest wall bouncer in the world, and To be honest, at a certain point, it can yield negative returns because you'll see people sitting there wall bouncing when they could just literally have killed the person 10 minutes ago. But one of the people that watches me on Twitch, Jin, I'm going to insert some footage now because he is an epic wall bouncer. Oh, he's got that. I would love to watch the replay of that. Oh my days. So essentially, this may look quite difficult and quite advanced, but it's actually not. All we're doing is basically tapping A and sticking to a wall, but I'm going to break this down simply. So stage one, essentially, I'm hoping you understand, but if you don't, all you have to do is tap A and the direction you want to go, and you'll stick to a wall, something similar to this. Now, depending on what controller scheme you have, will determine the distance away you can stick to a wall. Now, as I mentioned, if people talk about wall bouncing and slide cancelling, they're probably talking about the same thing, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to split it up. So this is you sliding to a wall. All I'm doing is pressing the direction I want to slide and A to stick to the wall. Now, you don't have to be facing the wall to do this. You can be looking in the opposite direction, but push the direction of the wall that you want to stick to and A, and you'll slide to it, unless you're like me and just messed up. So yeah, I want to slide to the wall behind me, so I'm just pressing back. Slide to the wall to the left of me, I'm just pressing left. Same with the right. So you don't have to be facing. Although it's easier to do it when you're facing the correct direction, you don't have to be. So stage one of wall bouncing / slide cancelling, I'm going to teach you what slide cancelling is. You slide into a wall by tapping A and pushing the direction. Now, if you push the opposite direction mid-slide or any point during the slide, it will cancel the slide. So that is what we call a slide cancel. So all I'm doing here is pushing forward to an A to stick to the wall, and then pushing the opposite direction to cancel the slide. So that is basically stage one of wall bouncing, is learning how to slide cancel. The second stage is to press A to stick to another wall after you've slide cancelled. So I'm going to slide cancel here, and then I'm pressing A to stick to another wall. That is literally it. I'm pressing A to stick to the wall. I've cancelled, and then immediately after, I'm pressing A and the direction of a different wall. That's me doing it in like sort of slow motion. I'm going to show you it kind of in slow motion one more time. Like step one, cancel the slide. Step two, stick to the other wall. Now, you may have to practice this in a bot match or something, but you'll get it super quickly. So it will look something like this when done quickly. And that is essentially all wall bouncing is. Once you understand this mechanic, the game will become easier and you'll be more difficult to hit, and you'll start looking like a Gears of War pro. So again, go to stick to the wall, cancel the slide, press A and stick to a different wall. And you can chain this together as many times as you want. Now, you can do different variations to this to change up your play. So if you're fighting someone that's quite advanced and you just consistently keep wall bouncing like this, they will start to see the pattern and just shoot you at some point because they'll be able to predict where you're going to go. So you can change it up. You can change up the timings of it. So sometimes you may just do a cancel and shoot, or you just do a cancel. Other times you do a cancel, then stick to the wall, so you do the full wall bounce. Other times you might stick to the same wall. What you can also do is change up the timing of your slide cancel. So you can cancel the slide at any point until you hit the wall. So sometimes you might do it quickly, like this. Other times you can wait a bit longer. All of these changes to your movement will make you more difficult to hit and more unpredictable. And the more unpredictable you are, the more difficult you are to fight against. You may see me or others play like this on stream and think it's very, very difficult to do, but once you get used to it, it's really not. Hopefully now you understand a bit more about wall bouncing and slide cancelling. I know this can be quite a difficult concept to grasp, and it can look quite advanced and quite difficult, but it's honestly not. And once you spend some time practicing this, you'll 100% get it. If you need me to explain any more, please drop a comment and I will make a dedicated video to this. As I said, it'd be much better if I could have the on-screen prompts of what buttons I'm pressing. Unfortunately, I don't have the facility for that at the moment. That is everything I can include for movement within the beginner's guide. I hope you found it valuable. I look forward to you going out and slaying and using what you've learned. As I said, everything in this video series you can implement in the very next game. If you did like it and find it valuable, please like the video and drop a comment as it helps with the algorithm. If you would like to support and see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And also follow me on Twitch. All of the links are in the description below, as well as the next 2 videos in this series, and they're going to come up on your screen in a second, which you can easily click. Hopefully, I will see you in the next one.